Sex trafficking, the booming industry that uses humans as reusable products for the profit of pimps, all at the cost of a victim's dignity. Sex trafficking is when someone uses force, fraud, or coercion to cause a commercial sex act with an adult, or causes a minor to commit a commercial sex act. A commercial sex act includes prostitution, pornography, and other sexual performances done in exchange for any item of value, such as money, drugs, shelter, food, or clothes. In more understandable terms, it is when someone forces another person to perform some type of sexual act in exchange for a profit. Traffickers use promises of protection, love, adventure, opportunity, and sometimes even a place to live to lure in young girls. Once they have lured in their victims, they force them to commit commercial sex acts through intimidation, threats, fear, and violence in order to meet the high demand. Traffickers expect their victims to perform these sex acts or be punished. Often, victims are sought out by traffickers at the common age of 14. Most often, these victims are young girls that are too naive to understand what is happening and often get stuck in the industry. Sex trafficking thrives because sex sells, and there is a serious demand for it. Traffickers, often referred to as pimps, go undetected because they play the role of the boyfriend in public. They disguise themselves as boyfriends to their victims. Because of this, it is hard to clearly identify traffickers, which only leave victims to be exposed and caught by law enforcement officers. Better laws should be created and enforced to protect victims of sex trafficking rather than convict them of crimes they were forced to commit. In 2014, I visited Cambodia on a mission trip with a couple from my church. The very first night we were there, we stopped at a karaoke restaurant to use the restroom. Upon arrival, a man met us at the door and asked what we were doing there. We told him we just needed to use the restroom and asked him if this was okay. He said yes, but not before he started speaking Khmer on a walkie-talkie. Khmer is the native language of Cambodia. I thought this act was strange, but I decided to not say anything about it. Once we walked through the restaurant to the bathroom, I noticed a large group of men sitting in chairs watching TV, but they all looked a little uneasy. I was confused by this, but continued to walk towards the bathroom. To get to the bathroom, we had to pass by a small room in which 3 girls that looked no older than 14 were fixing the buttons on their shirts, adjusting their skirts, and frantically putting on their shoes. I finally started to piece together what was actually happening and immediately started crying and praying. I felt such a sense of compassion for these girls, but I didn't know what I could do to help. Over the course of my 2 short weeks in Cambodia, I experienced many more encounters of sex trafficking, just like this one. Once I arrived back in the United States, I still felt an overwhelming sense of horror and sympathy for those 3 girls in the restaurant. I began researching ways that I could potentially help. I soon learned that this was not only an issue in Cambodia, but a much larger global issue. I felt somewhat defeated. I felt like this problem was much too large for me to make a difference, even just a small one. I decided to focus my research on Cambodia. Cambodia is situated in Southeast Asia and is home to 15.14 million people. Beyond the 15.14 million locals that live in Siem Reap, it is one of the largest tourism locations in the world. Siem Reap is home to Angkor Wat, which is a temple complex, and it is the largest religious monument in the world. With all of this beautiful history and culture comes tourism. Not all, but a large majority of the tourists are there as sex tourists. Sex tourism is the organization of vacations with the purpose of taking advantage of the lack of restrictions imposed on prostitution and other sexual activities by some foreign countries. Cambodia's lack of law restriction on prostitution makes it easy for young girls to become trapped in the industry. Often these girls feel hopeless and defeated. One organization that does an incredible job of helping recovering victims find refuge is Rafa House. Rafa House's mission statement is much like my own: to end the trafficking and sexual exploitation of children through aftercare for victims, prevention for the vulnerable, and awareness for all. My purpose in making this digital story is simple: to help spread awareness of the horrendous sex trafficking industry that is plaguing our planet. I want to help educate people about what sex trafficking is and why I feel so strongly about it. I hope this digital story inspired you to research sex trafficking more and find ways that you can help. Thanks for watching.